should we actually wait for a couple of minutes for more people to join?
Let's just introduce yourselves, who we are. So I will start. Okay, so my name is Hugo. I'm the host here. We run probably 1.5 sessions a week now, where we, let's say, invite people with a passion for innovation, corporate innovation in particular. And this is a space where we can share anything we want about design thinking, service design, startups, and entrepreneurship. We can ask for help as well. It's a space that is not sponsored by any company. So we are not here to sell products or whatever. We are here to help each other and to help probably our company as well to become more innovative. I'm from Portugal, but I'm based in London, and I lead the corporate innovation strategy team.
So I'll introduce myself then. So I'm Akanksha, and I'm originally from India, but I'm currently based in Milan. And actually, I've been in Milan for 3 years now. And I mean, for sure, you will hear more about me and what I do during the presentation. So I'll pass the word to anybody who wants to jump in and introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Raghav. I'm based out of Singapore just now. I was with Entrepreneur First for a bit, and now I'm working for a startup called Quad AI over here, and I'm a friend of Akanksha's and here to support her.
Hi, I'm Amanul. I'm an architect based in Delhi. We are into construction and designing services. I'm also Akanksha's friend. I know her for the past 10 years, and yeah, I'm here to listen to her, listen to her about her journey. Yeah.
Hi, Eloy. Feel free to say hello.
Hello, Hugo. I'm Eloy. I'm based in Portugal. I work in IT leadership and innovation a bit all over the world, but right now based in Lisbon. I'm Hugo's friend.
It's a pleasure to have you here today, okay? So thank you very much.
My pleasure to be here.
And you are a podcaster as well. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that, about your podcast?
Of course. I just started a startup with Eloy. You can find it in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or many other platforms. And I try to talk about a bit about startups, about innovation, about remarkable people and new trends, and a bit about e-commerce as well, and how companies are facing these challenges with innovation. They need to, right? It's innovate fast or die.
Exactly. And here in the Innovation Cafe, we have a list of 200 interesting people. So I guess you probably want to invite a few of us for your podcast. So feel free to do that in our Slack channel, or do it right now if you want to.
Definitely. Well, no, you're already one of the VIP invited guests. So I'll formally do it here. So I'll be glad to have a conversation with you. I'm just gaining momentum so that you can have a bigger audience as well. So right now I'm focusing on startup news and some interesting startups. Did a very interesting episode about the Indian startups right now that are really moving forward at quite a fast pace. But Hugo, you're invited.
Thank you very much. Yeah, indeed, India is becoming even more popular than what it was. And by the way, I've worked before, meaning I've organized a hackathon years ago with the CEO of Zomato. It was an exciting experience in Lisbon. I forgot his name. He's a very famous guy in India, I think. But yeah, we have people here from all over the world: Australia, from Singapore as well, United States. Which is interesting because sometimes we think something works, imagine in Europe, but it doesn't work in Australia or in a different culture. So this is also a platform to share more about culture in the innovation culture, and try to understand what works and what doesn't work. All right, who else is here? Just to allow you all to introduce yourselves, or tell us about your podcast or vlog or whatever. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you as well. again.
Hey again. Yeah, I try and drop in every opportunity I get because it's always good brain fodder. I mean, as an introduction for people who I haven't heard me say this before, I run a small digital team delivering work for ambitious scale-ups and fast-changing companies. So I always feel like a bit of an imposter because I'm not really in the corporate innovation space. We're kind of dealing with mid-sized companies, but that's my interest. So I'll turn up every opportunity I get and learn as much as I can from as many people as possible. And that's kind of why I'm here.
All right. Such a big audience. Good, very good. 15 people, which is good. In particular, because this is the second session this week. So yeah, well done. Who else wants to say a few words or dance or sing? I don't know, anything. All right, so maybe we can start the presentation.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I mean, in the presentation, I'm going to maybe ask some of the people who did not introduce themselves to introduce themselves. So feel free, if you're not obliged, you can just say no. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, and do you see it? Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So as I don't know how many people joined the call since the beginning, but I'll just say it again. So hi everyone, I am Akanksha, and today I would like to share with this innovation community the experience of building our startup Ibrida. First of all, thank you Hugo for building this community. And let me tell you a bit more about myself, so you actually feel less scared to talk about yourself. So I'm from India, but I'm currently based in Milan, and I've actually been, I just realized I've actually been living here for 3 years now. And I originally started, let's say, my design quest as an architect, as you can see there. And then I decided to shift to service design. So I graduated as a service designer. And currently I am one of the co-founders of the startup Ibrida. Before going into the details of the startup, I would like to introduce my wonderful team. So Francesca, Elisa, and Simone, I think they are on the call. If like they can unmute themselves and
yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francesca, and it's a pleasure for us to be here tonight, really. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'm part of this team with Akanksha, and I'm a service designer with a background in communication design. And in Ibrida, I undertake the role of account lead. So this means that I take care of the communications in the different channels and of the public relations with the clients and the different partners.
Hi everyone, I'm Elisa and I'm part of the team as well, co-founder as the other two girls. I graduated as well in service design at Politecnico here in Milan, and then I have like a background in industrial product design. I'm taking care of all the creative part of the startup. Of course, like we share a lot of tasks, and I hope you will enjoy the presentation.
Okay, I think Simone couldn't connect. So I'll just talk about Simone. So he's the only guy in this team of girls. So actually he has a lot of pressure on himself. And he's currently our business strategist. So he takes care of all the business decisions, and he basically adds the missing link to our startup. So, so like the team mentioned before, we all actually met at Politecnico di Milano, where we discovered this design mindset. So it's like a design outlook to life and actually to everyday things. So before we get started, I would ask you to tell me about yourself. So whoever did not get the chance to introduce themselves before, and I hope they would want to, feel free to take the stage. And if you need a guide, you can just tell us your name, where are you from, and what interests you. So what brings you here today? Anyone?
I can go.
Okay, cool.
Hi everyone, I'm Angela. I'm from Colombia, based in Germany. I'm a designer. My bachelor is also in product design, but then I did a master in Berlin in service design, and I work now as a design strategist for Chail, which is the creative agency of Samsung. And we do the experiences for the events where Samsung takes place, like IFA and CES in the States. And I'm here today because I'm curious about the transition from being a designer to become an entrepreneur. My interests are in social design. So my dream is one day to come back to my country and like start my own business or my own consultancy to run social projects. Yeah.
Thanks, Angela. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Unfortunately, I can't see the people on the call, so I can't pick you out with your names.
I think we can crack on with the presentation.
So, cool. So, I mean, as I know some people on the call, I think a lot of us are innovators, creatives, or designers, and that's a really good mix to talk about what I'm going to talk about. So, let's see what we can find the answers to. So today we're going to talk about the ability of 4 service designers to build an innovative startup. As designers, we have an innate need to adapt, empathize, be jack of all trades, and look for strategies for our products and services. These abilities can help us drive ideas into projects and finally to startups with an unconventional thinking process. And today I'm going to guide you through it. But first, I'm guessing you've heard the name Ibrida a lot of times already in this call, and you're wondering what it is. So, Ibrida is an artisanal beer. Yes, we're going to talk about beer for 1 hour. So who's excited now? But to know more, let's watch this video first.
Hi, I'm a beer. I'm sure you drink beer with your friends. What about my friends? Have you ever wondered? They're from my local neighbourhood. Let me introduce them. Malt, my soul. Hops, my spice. Yeast, my spirit. And then there is a special one. Bread, my body. I feel like a superhero when I save the surplus bread from going to waste, because this bread is baked with so much love by some of the best bakers in Milan. I respect them. I respect the products, the story behind them, and the ritual of production. I feel overwhelmed with the passion and the care that goes into making me, and I want to transmit all this positive energy and power to the local community as I seek from them. Oh, but I forgot to introduce myself. I'm not just any beer. I am Ibrida.
Well, now I think you have a glimpse of the project and you know about our secret ingredient that goes into making the beer, bread. So Ibrida is made with surplus bread unsold from the bakeries in Milan. So yes, it's a bread beer, but that's not all. Here comes the froth on the beer. The beer is crafted for and with the growing areas of the city to encourage forms of economic and social innovation. So we partner with a network of breweries, bakeries, local producers, community hubs, and social associations who come together to craft the beer of their neighborhood. So with a strong focus on sustainable development goals, especially the 12th goal, which is responsible consumption and production, Ibrida is a perfect combination of entrepreneurial and social spirit, looking at ways to achieve the following goals. So reusing surplus bread, reinvigorating growing areas, and reimagining opportunities for local businesses. So this is just a gist of what Ibrida is. Now let's go to the interesting bits. Where did it start? So Ibrida started as a university project in 2018 at Politecnico di Milano. And then we actually, we won a call in Italy for startups with a social innovation focus. And I mean, out of 150 projects, Ibrida was actually among the top 10. And that's what gave us the ultimate push to bring this product out of the university and into the real market. But having said that, can you imagine how 4 service designers started building a startup related to beer without having the know-how of beer production? Well, the strongest suit of a designer is their ability to adapt. No matter what is the situation, our problem-seeking skills can help us define solutions that work. Just like how design consultancies adapt to the project they're working on, whether it's healthcare, finance, banking, and so on, we as service designers assumed the role of beer specialists. Of course, I mean, it took a lot of research and experimentation, interviewing beer experts, drinkers, visiting brewing labs, and as you know, drinking a lot of beer. So some early collaborations with home brewers, brewing a batch of beer with them, and eventually partnering with large-scale breweries and redefining the process and tweaking the traditional recipe of the beer just a bit made us confident enough to enter the beer world. I mean, we were like excited kids when we saw our idea brewing and flowing inside a bottle. If you've never had the opportunity to see how a beer is brewed, here's your lucky chance. Watch the next video. So now let's talk about the second superpower. As a designer, we have a deeper understanding of user needs. We can empathize with our target, our partners, our community. But not only that, we seem to have this magic toolbox to go from empathy, research, ideation, concepting, prototyping, validating, and finally producing a proof of concept. We used all of this toolbox to slowly build the idea of Ibrida and test it with different stakeholders. Just to give you the flavor of this divergent and convergent process, we'll take you through some of the important prototyping and research sessions. So the first ever prototype that we organized was actually with professional actors. Yes, the guys you see in the video are basically actors. That's a very unconventional methodology, but these actors were improvising possible interactions with our product. They didn't know about the project in its entirety, but all they knew that it was a bread beer. So they were enacting possible exchange between a user and a bar or a bakery and a brewer, for instance. The second one we did was actually in a very different context. So we set up a fake beer lab. We organized a tasting experience with ingredients, and we were just trying to capture the reaction of people when we said, this beer is made with waste, or rather bread waste. So this actually was a very interesting experience because we found out people's reactions being very shocked that what are we doing and what are we trying to sell to them. But it was quite interesting. And then this was a big moment for us because this was our, let's say, prototype in the wild. So we organized an event for 70 people in collaboration with a cool bakery in Milan, Pave. And we brewed we home brewed a batch of beer. We organized the whole experience, as we like to call it, from the space to the movement of the people, to the tasting experience, to interacting with the brewing machine or talking to the brewer. Everything was well curated by us. Then, last but not the least, I would take you through one of the last prototypes, which was Coltivando. So this is a community garden in Politecnico di Milano. We partnered with them to produce a special beer with the hops produced by them. So we actually, as designers, we actually went down into the community. We interacted with the people of Coltivando. We procured the hops with them. And basically we produced a special beer and which featured in Milan Green Week. So this was a fulfilling experience to test a local producer's reaction on the project and our role as designers. Of course, I can understand such rigorous prototyping might not always be an option, but being a part of a university curriculum gave us the time and tools to actually make it happen. But what I can tell you from this experience is fail fast and learn faster. So with each prototype, we tweaked the idea of Ibrida to get where we are today. This brings us to the next segment of this talk. As you would have noticed from all these prototypes, a designer is not somebody who's just sitting in his fancy office and like with cool stuff around him, but really he or she has to be directly involved with the user or the partner or the collaborator. So every stakeholder involved. Building a community around a product as simple as beer could also be very difficult. We need the right beer, the right message, and the right content to make a difference. So Ibrida needs to be social. Just by the virtue of being a beer, it needs to be social. But we wanted to push these limits of the social identity towards initiatives that are aimed at activating and involving the community. And thus begins our journey of us designers as storytellers, content creators, and marketing specialists. At this stage of the project, when nobody knows about us, it's essential for us to be out there telling our story and making a physical part and making a big difference. So we soon realized the capability of us selling the story before the product itself. So to our surprise, we partnered with Riviera, which is actually a creative hub in Milan. And we collaborated with them for several events, workshops, networking nights, and so on. And we were the beer provider for this long-term collaboration, as they really appreciated the vision and the mission behind the project. It was a perfect message for us that our brand identity and storytelling was strong enough to convince two extremely creative architects to buy our product without tasting it. And since then, in the last few months, we've collaborated with a number of partners. So Plug and Play, which is like an innovation hub. We provided beers for their winter summit, Kashina Kukanya, and Ibrida for Bovisa, which was actually our launch event organized at one of the brewery partners. And then also Service Design Drinks Milan, because we wanted to represent their native culture services for our deep-rooted attention to community and design. And last but not the least, Forbes Italia, who actually featured our project in their March 2020 edition. But not just that, they also recorded a video interview with us, which featured on Italian national television. So with all these different platforms, we were not only honing our communication skills, but we were playing the role of content creators, marketing specialists, public relations, and communication managers. These titles, I know they're a bit too professional, but that's what you got to do. You have to be the jack of all trades. And luckily, design as a discipline can blur all these boundaries and shape us into playing those roles. So I told you about the production and the consumption, but what about the business decisions? That's where the tricky part is. That's where everybody says, what are the numbers behind your project? So of course, we do not have the business acumen of a real professional or of a real economist, but what we have is the opportunity to design strategies. So for us, beer is a means to build connections with different realities who share the common values and vision as us. This approach allows us to coexist and grow with our network and partners. All the collaborations we made, we were constantly taking into account our user target and the market we're trying to operate in. I mean, of course, as any other startup, we would want to be unique in the market, make our own little brand identity and a niche spot. And for us, the trend was actually quite clear. So a lot of Italians are drinking beer. I mean, let's say the popular theory is that Germans drink most beer, but you would be surprised how much beer is popular among Italians as well. So the consumption was high, while bread is becoming more and more important. It's not only a very important part of an Italian meal, but bakeries and oven labs around Italy have been really pushing on that product. So they're actually paying a lot of attention to the quality of the bread they produce. So wasting this bread it would just be a pity, and saving it and turning it into a beer would actually be a win-win model. So all these strategic partnerships helped us to scale from a small home-brewed batch of beer to a large-scale production with a real brewery partner. So a local beer with high-quality ingredients and a strong sustainability approach made our product stand out in the market. But Ibrida is not the only bread beer. Even if it's a novel idea, Ibrida actually comes much later in the chronology of bread beers. So how do we stand out? The project actually stands out for its promise to be a means of social aggregation, community activation, and neighborhood involvement. Yes, that's why it's not just a bread beer, but it's a neighborhood bread beer. Just to quote some proof of concept moments, for Ibrida for Neighborhoods, which is, and especially Buvisa edition, which is actually our first ever product, we partnered with 5 local bakeries and 1 brewery in the same neighborhood to produce this beer. And as you can see from the label, this is the label of the beer. And as you can see from the label, we're really trying to push on our partners the story of the neighborhood and in general, the whole concept of the project. So it differs itself from usual beer brands. And then for our newest limited edition, we actually partnered with one of the biggest bakeries in Milan, which is Panificio Davide Longoni, just because they wanted to realize a beer, especially for a neighborhood in Milan called Chiaravalle, because that's where the grains or that's where the crop is cultivated to make the bread they make. So what we're talking about is basically a project with a strong focus on social innovation. So Ibrida leveraged on synergistic collaborations with a network of partners who come together to produce the bread beer of their neighborhood and spread this sustainable vision with us. But it's not always the USP of the product, but it's also the USP of the creator, in this case, us designers, who makes a difference. Yes, we put ourselves on the front line, sharing our expertise and competencies with our clients and partners. We went from design to innovation to social innovation, and to our surprise, the innovation did not stop there. I mean, COVID-19 pushed us to explore a whole new world of digital innovation. I'm sorry to break it to you, but beer is not as analog as you think it is. There's a whole new digital ecosystem around this product, from social media, website, delivery channels, and so on. Of course, now in these difficult times, we understand this more than ever. COVID-19 has pushed most analog businesses to go digital, so why not a beer? Well, Ibrida was working hard for its offline strategy, organizing events, taking part in events, sharing the story live, but now we're exploring digital or different online channels. So we as a team, we have been more present online, participating in interviews and talks, just like today, sharing the story with the community. And I'm glad to say that this community is actually increasing day by day. We've reached out with our story to a very diverse and international audience. So we defined a coherent strategy across all these channels in order to shift the role of content from capturing attention to increasing the level of engagement with the customers or the partners. So there's no doubt how this is a difficult time, but let's try embarking new opportunities every day. So today we had this great opportunity to share and tell you the story of what we discovered in the last 2 years. I mean, how we built this design-led startup. So we actually found how we actually realized the power of this design mindset and its effect to approach problems and turn tangible everyday products into something that's valuable for the designers or the creators and the society itself. So that's all from us, Team Ibrida, and we would like to leave you with a food for thought. You only need the right beer to make a difference. So thank you everybody for listening. I think we'll go into like a question and answer session just after I close my presentation. But I mean, I just want you, I also have some questions for everybody who's listening today. So it's like give some, take some. So these are my questions, and if you could answer some of them, it would be great. So you could tell me what's your big takeaway from this presentation, or you could tell me what would you have done differently. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for listening.
No, first of all, well done. Exciting presentation. Wow. Congratulations. It's really hard to come up with something like this. Not talking about just from a graphic design point of view, but the whole idea, the team, the excitement and the energy. So wow, congratulations, well done. I'm really curious about how are you guys measuring success here, okay? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So I would say there are two let's talk about the social side of the project. So there are two parameters. One is how much bread we're saving. So actually in 6 months, we've saved already 200 kilos of bread. Second, how many districts or how many neighborhoods we're able to, let's say, activate. So for example, we already collaborated with 2 neighborhoods, which are not like nowhere close to the center of Milan. So the idea is that bit by bit, we would like to move from one neighborhood to the other, connecting these people, connecting these local producers and getting them in contact. So that's like the social side of the project. That's how we think that we've actually achieved what we wanted to do.
All right, grazie mille.
Prego. Any other questions, any other thoughts?
Well, just a comment. It's interesting to say you left a question saying that what did we think about the way you started your business? And in fact, what you proved is that there's no right way to start a business. You indeed followed your idea of developing a product and with purpose, with vision, put it to market. And in fact, your plan made it work. It's quite unusual and quite interesting. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Let us know if you want us to be on your podcast.
Definitely, yes.
Any other curiosities, or anybody wants to answer? We need you, Kevin. We need one question coming from you.
You talked about the iteration of the product development. Have you taken a similar approach to, for example, distribution and commercialization of the product?
Okay, so actually now we're almost at this beginning of this distribution phase. So currently basically we were selling the beer directly from the brewery, and now we have another partner. So the beer will also be available at their bakery. And then we decided to move to delivery, like home delivery, because of COVID. But we are still waiting to enter that channel of collaborating with a lot of bars to actually test this sort of collaboration. And right now what's happening is that we're moving from bar to bar, or let's say event organizers or people or companies who believe in us, who actually have the same values or vision as us. So they actually want to believe in the product for what it is and not just look at it as, let's say, as just another beer. So the early collaborations we also made, we were always considering the fact that let's keep this as a benchmark when we're approaching people. So we're not just approaching every bar in Milan, but we're sort of making our target niche.
Cool.
I'm curious about the techniques behind all of this. So you guys are from the design world, design thinking, probably in particular. Are you also using things such as the business model canvas or other techniques? And how, what about growth hacking and techniques from those worlds? I'm curious about the methodologies and all the articulation of those methodologies. And even if it is a strict thing regarding methodologies or a kind of an ad hoc project.
So, I mean, so the phase where we were actually still exploring this idea and figuring out what Ibrida would be, it was still partly orchestrated with the university. So, I mean, it's not like the university said, here's a business model canvas, fill it. No, not really. But it was still a bit more structured than, let's say, how out of the university you would approach something. But we actually used, like, I think as service designers, we love our tools. We think everything can work if we use the right tools. And we actually did use specific tools for each phase of the project. So when it comes to, for example, prototyping. So like I mentioned, the prototype with actors, it was something completely different and for the first time that we tried. But when it comes to business, we were talking about business model canvas, lean canvas, and filling all of these sheets up and kind of those tools actually help you build your idea bit by bit. So it's not like you jump onto everything at once. So in the beginning, we were doing a lot of brainstorming, a lot of ideation activities. So very, let's say very, very, very specific tools like, I don't know, Crazy 8 or a lot of co-creation or a lot of, like also one of my favorites is, let's say, the post-mortem where you where you start building your project from the fact that it has already failed. So you imagine that the project has failed and you start backwards. So you think about what could have happened to make it fail. So we actually used a lot of tools in this time period.
That's kind of interesting. So when you did the pre-mortem, when you imagined the failure at the end, what did you imagine would have happened? What were the main risks that you were addressing there?
So, I mean, I think one of the main risks that is partially still a risk is that nobody wants our beer. So it's like, okay, how do you really sell this beer? But at the same time, we knew that what we're competing with are one of the like there are plenty of beer on the market. So we can't just compete on the basis of the product. We need to compete in another way. So we need to compete on the fact that are we selling the story or are we selling the product? So let's say our skills as designers gave us the opportunity to actually nail the storytelling aspect. So what maybe, I don't know, like I don't want to take names of other beers, but let's say XYZ beer is doing, it's probably not going out there and telling you again and again, okay, this is the story, this is how we did it, and or this is how it's made and the values behind it. So this is something that we at least in this phase of the project, we're actually doing it quite often because we still need that. And later, I guess, once we've established the values behind the product and we're approaching the right people, it could help us to continue this mission.
And another question, a bit more, how did you jump from the idea to the production? How was that?
So, I mean, the thing was that when we had this idea, we did one of the prototypes in a big bakery in Milan. And I mean, all throughout let's say we were still in the university. So all throughout the semester, we were just fluffing that we will partner with them. And in the end, we actually partnered with them. And for us, it was like a reality check, like, oh my God, this became real. We were just fluffing around for now. And after that became real, we actually started getting a lot of traction. People, like we already set up our social media and everything. And people actually thought that it's a real project. And we were a bit scared because we were like, no, but we are in the university. I don't know if we can give you beer for real because we don't have any license. And but eventually what happened, what gave us this opportunity mainly was the fact that we won that call, which was for startup projects all around Italy. And we were among the top 10. And funnily enough, I mean, also my team is here. So funnily enough, it happened last year and I was in Berlin doing my internship. another colleague, Elisa, she was in Australia. Another colleague, Simone, he was in Netherlands, and Francesca, she was in Turin. So nobody was really in Milan, and we won this opportunity, and we were like, oh my God, what to do now? Because people can't just keep traveling from everywhere in the world. So somehow, luckily, Francesca being in Italy, we managed, like she actually, thanks to her for actually going back and forth. And we actually managed to continue this project somehow remotely. So what we're experiencing now, we experienced this last year when we were starting the project. And that actually, I think that also really talks about teamwork in a way. So how we organized ourselves then when we had to start this project actually made a lot of difference in how we approach things now.
Well, yeah, that's a wonderful story, and it's proof that remote teams work. It's incredible how to jump from an idea to concretely realize it in the field with everyone dispersed over the world. That's excellent proof that it works.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the prototype, that real life prototype, people pretending to be doing something, and I'm like, I think I did something similar in the past in Portugal, trying to reinvent the experience when someone walks into a court, into a tribunal. And we're doing exactly the same with cardboard. And the thing is, it's not about the prototype, it's about a collaboration. People testing new ideas, working together side by side with their own hands. And sometimes I'm like, why companies don't spend more time actually prototyping instead of wasting resources doing slide decks and then endless meetings, regardless if they are remote or physical meetings. So instead of PowerPoint, that's it. People should prototype a lot more, not only on the digital world, but also on the physical world. And that's a technique to reduce the risk of developing the wrong thing. So actually it's risk management. It's more than design thinking, it's risk management. And sometimes the problem with people from the design world is that they don't know how to explain this to a CFO. So they start talking about prototyping, lo-fi, hi-fi, and things like that. But when you talk about risk in developing the wrong thing, we get their ear. They will immediately understand, okay, so it's to protect my money. So this is my advice to the community. Adapt your pitch, let's say, depending on the person you are talking about, because a CFO will never understand what a prototype is, in particular if it is a throw-up prototype.
I completely agree. And it comes back to the statement that you made in your presentation with the fail fast, fail cheap. I believe that most traditional organizations are too afraid to fail, even if it's small. It's pure lack of vision. It's like Ugo said, if they fail early in the process, they can correct it and go on the right path quicker than any of the competitors, but they still don't want to fail fast. That's one of the fear of failure is one of the arguments that I see the most.
So the key takeaway for me is clearly collaboration. I can feel your team works very well together, and that is visible regarding the outcome that you guys already achieved, probably the outcomes you are going to achieve in the future. But I have a question here, because you said that you guys are following design methods and all of that. Regarding those methods, would you improve any existing methods? Because I have a theory that many of these methods are not working somehow, because many organizations are still struggling to innovate. Because innovation from a startup viewpoint is one thing, innovation in a legacy organization is a completely different thing. So from your experience, trying to follow a playbook to come up with a better value proposition, probably a business model as well, what would you improve on those methods?
Okay. First of all, my advice would be one shoe doesn't fit all. So these tools do not fit every project. What you need to understand is when you have, let's say, a project brief, following A, B, C, D is not going to work. You need to understand what works best for the area that you're trying to enter. So even if it's like, I don't know, even if it's a very simple tool like brainstorming, but you can direct that brainstorming according to what you're trying to achieve. So for example, if I'm trying to design, I don't know, a scooter, I will not ask the same questions as designing a beer. So what people need to understand, or what companies need to understand, is these tools are like frameworks, but they're open to interpretation. So you need to be able to interpret them according to your process, according to your project, and also according to the team. So for instance, like luckily we were all four service designers. So when I say, I don't know, for the name of a tool, they get it. It's not like I have to rebuild that tool. So it also depends on the team that you're working with. So if, for example, it's a management consultancy, maybe not everybody is a designer. Maybe you have an engineer on your team, and to talk to them, you need to speak a different language. So this is also something that that companies or that people in general need to keep in mind when using design thinking tools rather. And I would actually add something. I had a very interesting experience just recently, and I was I was giving a user interview for this research project, and they were I think they were focusing on how to use these tools for circular economy. So Ibrida being actually one of the examples of circular economy in a way. They were interested to know how, as service designers, or we think about these tools in general and specifically for circular economy. So the thing that I told them is that you can't just follow the playbook blindly. If you have to tweak your tools and make it more relevant to circular economy, you do that. If, for example, business model canvas is a regular tool, but when you're talking about circular economy, it's a completely different let's say completely different scenario. So that's what my advice to people would be.
What about working in a different culture?
That's exciting. So I mean,
what was the challenge?
so actually last year I was working in Germany, so it was a whole different world. This year I'm working in Italy again, so it's again a whole different world. And with the startup, it's I mean it's a third world, I would say, because it's not the same as working for a design consultancy and a startup. But actually, right now I'm working in Milan full time for a design consultancy, and on the side, I mean, also me and Elisa are actually work colleagues and startup colleagues, so we're actually balancing both. But to go back to your question about the cultural difference, I mean, there, of course, it's not that easy. It takes time, and you need to adapt to it. I think there's so much scope for communication gap. Like even if I mean, even if I'm talking to somebody who's a designer, but the way I express it may not be the same as the way an Italian expresses it in that same environment. So what you need to get past is that there will be differences like this, there will be anomalies like this, and you need to leave a bigger space or bigger room for understanding. So like I also sometimes think that now, since I'm also working full time here, like I have like, okay, I can understand Italian, but I really can't speak, I think. So I'm struggling in that sense also for the culture. So the startup being something small, something that is super Italian in a way, we actually have to approach a lot of people in Italian. And that's where I have to say it's a drawback, because I am not able to communicate, but being on a team with 3 Italians helps to achieve that part.
Yeah, it can be quite challenging to work in a different culture. Exactly. Yeah, and I was thinking, because I'm Latin as well, and sometimes these methodologies are strict, so we need to follow a lot of steps. And the Latin people in general, I would say, we don't like to follow procedures. We like to shortcut, and there's always a better way. It's my way. So I was wondering, and I think you've worked in Germany. I think the Germans are a bit different. They like to probably follow the procedure, unless there's a problem with the procedure, then they improve the procedure, and then all follow that procedure. It's a bit, and I've worked with Germans before, so I'm not guessing how they work. I know how it is. All right, any more questions? Feel free, guys, to unmute yourselves. This is an informal event, no worries.
And also, if my team wants to share a word, feel free.
In Italian, that will be really cool.
Go, Ellie.
Well, probably they are trying to find the unmute button, which sometimes it's tricky to find.
Anybody, anything?
So, and do you have already financial partners for your venture? How was it? Was it you get any sort of grant when you got the award? Or?
So what we got is an incubation path. So it was not money, but we got resources and mentorship, let's say. So we do not have an external investor or angel investor or anybody who's doing that aspect of the business right now. So whatever we're doing, we're putting in our own let's say money. But what we did, what I should mention actually is one of the strongest points of our business idea was basically that we partnered with the brewery, and the agreement is such that the production cost is being borne by the brewery, and we pay them royalty on sales. So technically, we are not investing the initial batch is not from us. So that saves us a lot of panic, let's say. So, but yeah, that's about the business, I think. Other than that, yeah, we're putting in whatever we can.
Well, I believe with the current context of the world, the sustainability card that you played really well together with your very well worked on image, they are strong vectors for you to approach VC money and to try to expand it. I know it's very regional. You're proving the concept works at the local scale. You probably need to start getting partners that can expand that globally. Well, progressively, maybe do an MVP in a different country and try to see if it works there, because the sustainability is amazing. It's a really nice angle, and it's just not the publicity stunt. It's the core of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much.
I was just wondering if I could ask you about branding. Obviously, as Elio said, the sustainability aspect is fantastic. But with beer, it really does come down to branding. And I guess I was sort of thinking just how and why that approach, or even just more of the design elements, why them?
So, sorry, could you repeat the question for the branding? Sorry, I didn't get you before.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you took that style of branding. How did you come around to your style of branding?
Okay. So I think one thing that was very clear for us was with the branding or with the communication design, our product should convey the values that we're talking about. So it shouldn't look as any other beer on the market. And at the same time, like even if you look at the label, it's super simple. So we're not trying to tell you buy this beer. What we're trying to get through is the story. So the idea of having actually like this large chunk of text on the label was also because we were trying to tell the user or tell the drinker where this beer is made, why it's made, how it's made, and all of this story. So if you, I'll put the website link on the chat for the startup. So you can actually go there, and you will realize that if you actually click on it, you would not feel that we're trying to sell you a beer, because what we're trying to sell you is a behavior, that is a sustainable mindset or a sustainable understanding. And beer is just an example of how you can achieve it with the most let's say, you don't think about sustainability when I say beer. Like I'm sure you think about other things. So if we can change that, I think we can change the way people behave and the way people look at sustainability and make it more approachable in a way.
Thanks. I thought the design was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry guys for before, but I had some issues with my laptop. I'm back. I'm one of the team members for in case someone joined after. And I also want to thank you all for the questions that were really interesting, and also thanks Aga for your pitch, of course. And I would like to add just the fact that it was a challenge for us also for the question of being of different cultures, but I think that it really helped us to be more inclusive one with the others, and also to reach different audience and target. Like also here today, we're talking with an international audience, and this is also thanks to Akanksha. Then, I mean, we can have different kind of contacts and everything, while being so some Italian, some from abroad, and it's super helpful for us also that we try to speak in English, so we keep it always up, and that we can communicate in different channels also in different ways. So this is super helpful for us because we can be Italian, as Ibrida is a startup based in Milan, but we can also be international and local, so we can also replicate maybe one day this kind of model not only in Italy but also abroad. And I mean, we have our expertise in the team, so it's beautiful.
And sometimes maybe that's the diversity that companies need to come up with better products and services. That's part of the magic as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you also, because even if we're all service designers, I mean, we have different backgrounds, different skills also, because we're divided. I mean, one of the big challenges, as you said before, it's the collaboration. I mean, we have this power in a way, we believe in each other's, but also the fact of having different competencies and abilities helps us also because we can really divide our tasks, but also trust on each other's. And this is great for a team, I think.
So the challenge is, if you guys get funding and you guys become a big company, how to protect that culture? Because the culture is part of your success at the moment, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, for sure. We will try in any case to build a new family. I mean, the change itself, it's part of a startup, but also of the human being itself. So, I mean, it's something that we will keep also because we're the 4 co-founders, but if we become bigger, it also means that we can expand our kind of culture with other people, and it would be great if other guys interested could join our team. And I mean, it will mean that we will really become super big in that case.
So that will become a good problem, something that can be sorted.
Yeah, a challenge, let's say. Yeah.
All right, any final question? Because we are running out of time, which is good. It means everybody was so excited, many questions. Okay. Elisa, you want to say something? You are part of the team as well.
Yeah, sorry. I had issues before and now I fixed them, so I'm happy. As the other 2 girls said, I'm really proud of this project, and I'm like learning as our community what is Ibrida is it about, because it's like every day a new discovery, a new challenge. It's not just about being digital during these days. It's really like becoming able to, I don't know, find new partners to share our project, our missions and values. It's really like something that we appreciate, like to identify our identity in other people, in other projects, and try to combine them and grow together. This is really something that we care about.
All right, any more questions, comments, observations, feedback? All right, so thank you very much, Akanksha, everybody, all the team, speakers and participants as well. Feel free to come back to the Innovation Cafe every single week, usually Thursday, 6 p.m. London time. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and check our website for the upcoming events, okay? Thank you all. It was a pleasure to host another Innovation Cafe, okay? And success.
Thank you so
I wish for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay healthy. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.